All right, so Arthur writes in, he's 44, wife is 44, would like to retire by 60, has about $390,000 in his retirement accounts. He's, say, hey, should I be doing something differently or just keep plugging away? I don't know his situation. He just, basically a little blurb there he had given me. But I get this quite a bit for folks in their late 30s all the way up until about 50. They're usually 10, 15 years out. And I just tell them all the time, I said, look, doing financial planning, retirement planning for these people is just not worth the time for them, or the money for sure, if they're going to pay somebody. Because if they're looking at 10 to 15 years out, what's the retirement plan going to do? It's completely speculative. It doesn't. I don't understand why would it make sense to do a full-fledged financial / retirement plan if you got 16 years yet to work. And the reason for that is because we have no clue what is going to be in the future. We have no clue where you're going to be. We have no clue what the market's going to be, what the taxes are going to be, if you're still married, if you're dead. We have no idea. There's too many things, what ifs, that it doesn't make it at all sense to do some elaborate retirement plan because you're so far out. Now, when it comes to just basic plugging away, here's what I tell everybody. If you're in your 40s, 30s, make sure you have some term life insurance, all right? I'm telling you right now, you want term life insurance, minimal, to pay off all your debt if you were to die, and to give your surviving spouse 2 years of income, minimal. And for a 44-year-old guy, that shouldn't be very expensive, assuming that you're in halfway decent shape. That's number one. Number two, watch that flipping cash flow like a hawk, dude. I'm telling you, mid-40s, you're starting to get in your peak earnings time, and you're starting to spend up into what your cash flow is. I'm there. You spend what you can quote unquote afford, if that makes sense. Even if you really can't afford it, you still spend up to that point. And it feels good, especially if you come from a non-privileged background where you haven't never been able to buy what you wanted to buy. So now you come to that point, you're like, man, I'm making money. I could buy this, I could buy that. And you go on Amazon or you go on Costco, you're like, I'll just put in the card. I'll pay it off at the end of the month. What happens to that credit card at the end of the month? It's now $1,000 that you couldn't pay off. It was $4,000, you pay $3,000 against it because that's all you have for cash flow. Now it's at $1,000. Next month's at $1,500. Next month's at $2,000. Next year. A couple years goes by and all of a sudden you got $10,000 on a credit card. I'm telling you, I know this firsthand. This happens to me all the time. Or it had, and it still kind of does. You just wake up one day and say, damn, a freaking credit card. I thought I was going to be paid off every month, and it's not paid off every month. And now I'm keeping a balance and actually adding to my balance. And that is what deficit spending is. You have a debt, $1,000 on your credit card, and you're spending more than what's coming in. That's deficit spending, which is adding to your debt. No different than the federal government. So you're saying, look, man, I got $1,000 in debt. I owe somebody. It cost me 7%, whatever. A year from now, I spent $1,500, but I only could pay $1,000. So now I got $500 of deficit spending. Someone is willing to loan me $500 to continue my consumption. Now I add that $500 to my previous debt, which also happened to grow because I owed. So now that's $1,600 of debt, and I'm still in deficit spending. And what's going to happen at that point? This is where it gets tricky. At some point, the grantors of that debt don't grant you that debt anymore because they say you're too risky. You have too much debt. You don't have enough income. Your debt to income ratio is too high. It's too risky. We're going to cut off any more deficit spending. And on top of that, we're going to lock in your debt and even call it if on occasion, which means, we want you to start making real big payments to this. I mean, that happened to me, man, in 2008. My credit cards, which were supposed to be at 0% interest for the life of the loan. Well, lo and behold, that wasn't true. when everything went to hell in a handbasket. And it freaking cooked. I mean, it ranshackled, whatever, my financial plan up to that point, because I thought we had 0%. I could just pay, $250 a month. Nope. All of a sudden, those my minimum payments were like $600 a month or so. I can't remember what it was, but that was painful. Don't do that. So you got to watch your debt, dude. I'm telling you, it's easy to fall into that trap. Squirrel some money away, obviously. No idea what your income is. I imagine it's pretty good if you have $390,000 squirreled away and you're only 44. I mean, you're probably making pretty good money. And because you're married, I tell you, man, I still think, and people disagree with me till I'm blue in the face, I still think it's preferable to pay more tax today and then to have that burden removed from you in the future. So let's just say you're making $150,000 a year. Well, after your standard deduction, your taxable income's at 125 or such. All right, so you're 20,000, 50,000 into the 22% tax bracket. There's no way you're gonna be the 12%. But you also have 390,000 put aside. If that 390,000 just goes at 7%, by the time you're 64, that 300,000 will be worth 1.6 million, all in deferred accounts. Which means what's going to happen at that point is you're going to have to start taking money out of that, and you'll quickly find you're no longer in the 12% tax. You're not in the 12% tax bracket then either. You're in the 22%. But then your options are limited on how you can take money out because everything's in deferred accounts. And so what happens is you say, oh man, I gotta get this new roof. It's gonna cost me $15,000, $20,000. I gotta pull it from my deferred accounts, which means I gotta pay tax on it. And now it's gonna cost me $3,000 or $4,000 in taxes just to have a $20,000 distribution to fix my roof. The problem, that's where I think tax diversification comes in handy, even if it means you ultimately pay more taxes via some spreadsheeting analysis you do. I tell you, man, I would be putting money into the Roth, your Roth 401k. Remember, your employer contributions always go to the deferred part, the deferred bucket. Your contributions, you can decide, if you have that option, which you probably do, to put to the Roth or to put in the deferred. Tax diversification is worth it to put in the Roth, in my opinion. Even if for every $10,000 that you put in the Roth, it costs you $2,200 of income tax today. Oh man, someone's mowing their yard. It smells so good. Nothing like a fresh mowed yard. All right, so just watch the debt. Think about doing Roth 401k contributions as opposed to traditional tax deferred. Keep your health good. Don't freaking add 25 pounds because you're sitting in a commute. You got to keep your health good, man. Get life insurance. I can't remember if I said that yet. I know I did before, but make sure your wills are up to date. And a power of attorney, as I always talked about. A durable power of attorney is critical. Make sure you get those puppies up to date and just keep plugging away. That's what you should do. Nothing fancy. Invest for the long term, i.e., you need stocks, dudes. Index funds. You gotta have stocks. That's the way I look at it. You say, I'm gonna just invest in the S&P 500 and move on. Is that the best place for you? I don't know, man. You're gonna have to think about that. But that's what I would do. And that's what I recommend. So hope this helps. Thanks now.